Aloha Aquascaping World, Stephen Chong here to bring you another Aquascape Dancing Spring Water. This one was designed to compete in the CIAC, the China International Aquascaping Contest, but the 2021 contest was delayed last minute over concerns regarding COVID. Hopefully this will blow over soon and the awesomeness of an international photo contest culminating in an on-site contest in Shanghai or Guangzhou can come back. I was fortunate to win invitation to participate in the 2019 event, and it was really something special. Hopefully it can happen again next year. But in the meantime, none of the 2022 contests I would enter this work into require keeping it unpublished. So proud to share it with you guys early. So for this work, I think you can tell right away that it's not a typical layout for me, clearly falling more within the broader category of traditional nature aquarium style rather than progressive diorama. The approach I took here also aligns with NA style. I didn't go with my standard method of research to illustration to dioramascape. Instead of a deeply researched theme and meticulous design with Hardscape pieced together to create that design, I started with a feature Hardscape piece that I knew I wanted to work with and moved it around until I got it in a position I felt would work well. So that's much more, traditional. In this case, the Hardscape was this huge piece of wood that I got from my in-laws. In a Japanese room, washitsu, there's often an elevated display area where one would feature some piece of nature like ikebana, flower arrangement, or bonsai. But one can also simply place an attractive stone or elaborate piece of wood. We call this kazari, or literally ornament. This piece of wood was one of several my late grandfather-in-law had around for such a use. Here's my daughter when she was 3 standing next to it, and my wife's jikka, childhood home. Of course, as is, the piece was too big to practically use in a 4-foot aquarium, so I had it cut down into 3 smaller pieces. Actually, you've already seen me use this wood before, as the biggest piece of my IAPLC layout silent pool was made from the smallest third of this wood. I had to admit that I hadn't used it up until now, in part for lack of inspiration, but also because I was a bit leery about the potential of tannins to come from it. It not being from a professional aquarium store or whatnot. But after working with the one piece in Silent Pool and seeing how my current filtration method using both Seachem Purigen and Japan's black hole activated carbon product, it managed to keep the water looking really, really crystal clear in Silent Pool, so I was confident that we'd be able to overcome it even using the 2 largest pieces of this wood. So here's a shot of the final hardscape. At this stage, I think you can see that it actually does contain many tenets of modern progressive dioramascapes, the sense of wide space and depth, as well as focus on drawing the eye to the center. I just can't avoid the influence Fukada-san has on me, and in all my works I have to put a great focus on carefully deciding where the eye will go and how to draw it there. After making that determination, by finding the position of the 2 largest pieces of wood, I propped them into place with stone and superglued them into position. But I think you can see that the stones also were carefully organized to draw lines around, behind, and through, especially considering the holes in the wood and the lines made behind them in order to lead the eye to the center. I added intricacy and detail with the branch wood, which also treats the negative space under, behind, and through the main wood as windows to draw lines leading to the center. The natural holes in the wood are a key to avoiding the scape feeling too heavy or flat and allowing for creation of continued universe under and behind it. Still, despite all this intricacy from modern techniques, the overriding method and final appearance of the scape is traditionalist, I believe, meant to aim for simplicity and zen. Ono-san pointed out a great insight to me that I didn't notice when I was actually designing the scape. Quote, "Despite the many elaborate elements, the scape is essentially an iwagumi with wood instead of stone, and it relies on the same focus and power of the iwagumi style." End quote. Yeah, I think that really nails it actually. So in considering the planting, it's not that I had no idea at all for the theme. I was still in a cold water temperate mindset and knew that I wanted to go with a list of plants that gave the impression of pond plants. It's an underwater theme. In particular, I was charmed by several of the plants used in Ono-san's IAPLC layout, Asian Breeze, rank 107. I was charmed by the red Blyxa Aubertii and this bubbly green plant called Taiwan Lotus, and the thin grassy plant Eriocaulon feather duster, which Ono-san has used several times before. I asked Ono-san to sell me some large portions of all three, which he generously agreed to despite these plants' slow growth. Thankfully, because the IAPLC was already over at the time. But I really wanted a plant selection that would give me a strong impression for presence of plants, with the red Blyxa especially being the featured plant that would express energy and freshness. Also, given that I started building the layout late in August, I really had very short window and needed to finish by October 19th to meet the CIPS deadline of the time. I knew that I would need all the help I could get in terms of plant maturity, and getting Ono-san's plants in excellent health on arrival definitely gave me a leg up there. While it's a slow species, I was amazed as the Blyxa put out so many new beautiful leaves in a short time, and digging them out now, I realize I have maybe 30% more crowns from runners too, and Taiwan Lotus really shocked me in its growth. Even though it's shaped like a lotus, each leaf trimmed off will send out new roots and become its own new plant. It really does proliferate like crazy, and with experimentation, I found it can work not only as a mid-ground accent plant, but also as a pseudo-stem plant or even a floating plant. Like right before the photo shoot, I trimmed off some excess leaves and just floated them on the water surface wherever I felt their presence would make the surface reflections more interesting or more integrated. And this use is essentially the same, both aesthetically and horticulturally, because the leaves will turn into their own new plant and because it does grow as a floating plant. It's the same as when scapers float frog bit or similar at the photo shoot, just to adjust the reflections or hide the rims of the aquascape. You see it a lot in the Brazilian style. I rounded out the plant list by picking some of my other favorite pond weeds, including Potamogeton gayi, left over from my 2019 IAPLC layout Amanos River, also Blyxa japonica from my IAPLC Scape Silent Pool, and Vallisneria nana, all of these to soften the contrast between plants, and I used some hairgrass species to help build up depth. Moss and a few accents of Rotala macrandra green round out the plant list, full list in the description. It's much more wild and undisciplined than modern NA-scapes like what ADA often publishes, but I like that naturalistic aesthetic, and the feature species of red Blyxa and Taiwan Lotus, they have big enough leaves and strong enough presence to actually avoid letting the whole scape look like a blurred mess, even when you have more of this wild integration. All in all, it was a bit scatterbrained, but I really like how the plant selection came together at the end. And finally, the fish, Rasbora espei, also wasn't my initial choice, but after working with the layout and seeing the plants come together, I knew I needed a smaller species to maintain the spaciousness that was created by the initial hardscape, but crowded a bit by the large plants. I also needed a fish that would work well with the Blyxa Aubertii's intense colors, and with the help from my buddy Ryo Yoshida, we chose and sourced the espeis. And when I saw them in this shot, swimming in front of the eye of the wood, I knew this was the shot for this layout, with the fish continuing the lines of the Blyxa leaves dancing in the ripples to bring it all together. With the title of the aquascape, Dancing Spring Water, I wanted to be ambiguous about whether the word spring was referring to the season, like the crispness of this aquascape. The first water flows back into ponds and springs after the snow melts and plants growing back from their hibernation. Or whether I was talking about spring as in spring water, the source, which also has a crisp, cool feeling where plants grow up in water, clear and clean from that continued source. By the way, since I know I'm going to get questions about it, the blue background in this aquascape was hand-painted, acrylic on white foam board. I also found that this was the only way to control the color to the degree that I wanted. And you know what? I played with some blue sand highlights inside this aquascape to extend the impressions of the blue background. This is something I did in Silent Pool as well, but I think you got to be real subtle with how you use it in order to prevent it from looking artificial. Overall, really proud of this layout and looking forward to its performance in contests in 2022. This was quite a different kind of project for me, and for my fans who ever wondered, what would an NA-scape by Stephen Chong look like? Well, here's an example. For more footage and info about this scape, my buddy Ryo Watanabe is doing another tank feature video on his channel. He came and visited me here in Tokyo. There's also going to be a video of us visiting the Amo Gallery by ADA if you haven't seen it yet. If you like this kind of content and are willing to put up with a YouTuber who spends 99% of his time making layouts and 1% making YouTube videos, please like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and I'll see you guys in a couple months, half a year, who knows, with the next vid. But I'll leave you guys with some more footage of the tank. Until next time, take it easy.